Hi, my name is Sinit, a government officer at Department of Industry, Science, Technology and Innovation in Kampong Chhnang Province. Today, I have a great honor to present, share experience and lessons learned that I acquired from South Korea through KOICA Scholarship Program. In today's knowledge sharing video, I'm gonna share 4 things. First, the introduction. Second, lesson learned from Korea. Third, research finding. And the last one, how I applied the knowledge from Korea to my work. So, please let me move to the first thing. Here, regarding my education background, I started a general education from 1994 till 2006 in Kampong Chhnang Province. And I continue undergraduate degree from 2006 till 2010 from Northern University. And the last degree I earned is master degrees in e-government and public management from Yonsei University, South Korea through KOICA Scholarship Program. Relating to my career, I've worked for the government since 2015 until present. Apart from my public works, I was also a project manager at non-governmental organization from 2009 till 2015. That time, I was leading the project of land tenure security and natural resource management. Well, let me move to the next part, which is sharing my experience and lesson learned. The Korean education system is really amazing. What I learned is that Korean education system is globally recognized, and most professors earn degrees from European countries and US. And all universities in Korea require students to do their research by themselves, and then those students just share experience or what they learned to the class. Anyways, in Cambodia, most universities don't require students to do much research. So I see this is the difference. In Korea, university also has adequate experiment and testing facility. Well, relating to public transportation, in South Korea, the public transportation is really convenient and cost-effective to move around. In spite of small cities, there are modern subway and also public bus and airport as well. This option combination make it easy for the traveler. And I still remember in Korea, I traveled from Yonsei in Sinchon to Nami Island. I paid around only 2,000 Korean won. That is really affordable or cost effective. And relating to crime rate, it is very low in most parts of the country. I feel safe to walk even at night. I also noticed that in Korea, even though we left bicycle in front of our building, we don't need to worry it being stolen. Anyway, relating to the e-government development of Korea, according to the UN e-government surveys, Korean e-government development index was ranked number 1 in the region or in the world. And most of the public services are served through e-government application. I remember when I was in Korea, I applied for COVID vaccine that time, and I applied online. Then, I can get vaccine that time, and most buying transactions are served online securely. Well, let me move to the next part. My research title is Citizen Trust and Adoption of E-Government Service, the case of e-business registration service in Cambodia. In this section, I will share 4 parts. Why I chose this research for my study, how I developed research model, and research finding, and the last one is recommendation to e-government developers in Cambodia. Let's move on. And why I chose this topic for my research? If we look at to the global perspective, we see that technology and ICT infrastructure has been developed and advanced. So governments around the world developed or adopt e-government from such advancements. Then the development of e-governments of those governments is to solve the problem they are facing. By realizing such benefits of e-government utilization, Cambodian government has put effort to develop e-government service since 2000. But we see that the e-government development readiness index of Cambodia is still low because of low level of trust in e-government service. According to the literature review, user trust in e-government service is confirmed to be one of the significant factors that contribute to success of e-government adoption. And the factor that affects user trust are also important. Therefore, in my research is to investigate how this factor influence user trust and how the trust associated with user acceptance of e-government service. And this, I focus on e-business registration service of Cambodia. And then I will inform this finding to the government. Let me move to the next part, that is how I develop model and what methodology I used in my research. My model is named Citizen Trust and Adoption of E-Government Service, and it has been developed based on the combination of 3 previous studies about e-government. And the key constructs of my models are perceived security, how secure people feel when using e-business registration service or when using e-government service. Perceived risk, how vulnerable people feel when using e-government service. Perceived usefulness or benefits, what benefits given by e-government service when people use. In this model, it supposes image and output quality of the e-government service associated with perceived usefulness or perceived benefit. So this research investigates how these factors affect user trust in e-government service and whether the user trust really influence user acceptance of e-government or not. The model also tries to understand if the easiness of service can motivate people to use or continue to use the e-government service or not. And the level of education associated with easiness of using e-government service or not. Well, in order to test this model, a hypothesis has been formed by using past analysis method. Next, I'm going to go through hypothesis and research finding. In my research, as I told earlier, there are 8 hypotheses. The first is higher perceived security, higher user trust in e-government service, or particularly in my research, is e-business registration service. And I don't take time for go through all the way of all my hypotheses. So the last hypothesis is user education associates with perceived issues or not. And in this research, I divided it into 2 parts: demographic information and testing hypothesis. Based on demographic information involved by respondents, we see that around 91% of respondents are male and 8% are women. And people with undergraduate degree is more participative in my research, and followed by master and no education. More respondents have experience of using internet from 2 to 10 years. And the second part is testing hypothesis. With past analysis method, we see that 4 out of 8 hypotheses are significant. We also found 2 additional hypotheses. So let me go through in depth into the findings. Through empirical finding, It indicates that success of e-government service adoption depends much on user trust as one among other factors, because as a result in research, user trust really influences user acceptance of the e-government service, and the user acceptance is the key indicators of success of e-government service adoption. On the other hand, perceived usefulness and security in using e-government service are substantial and positive determinants which impact user trust in e-government service. The findings also demonstrate that when users of e-government service know the service gives them more benefit than the other physical service provision methods and high level of education of security, the level of trust in service is high. However, perceived risk is also found to be a determinant of user trust but negative impact. When users perceive high level of risk in using e-government service, the trust in that service is reduced. Whereas output quality that we found here and image do not reflect perceived usefulness, whereas they have direct effect with trust and intention to use the e-government service. And relating to the perceived ease of use, it doesn't encourage people to use e-government service. In finding, also informs us that using e-business registration service or e-government service do not require any high education, but people need to get familiar with electronic devices. This makes sense because, as we see in the demographic information, most people have experience of using internet from 2 to 10 years. Only trust in service and image that urge people to use or continue to use e-government service. Next, I will give recommendation to the government or e-government developers in Cambodia. And this study provides a series of user trust in e-government adoptions and helps improve understanding of user trust in e-government adoption as the important factors that and adopt e-government service based on citizen perspectives. Factor influences user trust are really important. So when designing e-government service, these factors mentioned earlier should be taken into considerations. To succeed e-government service adoption, government should also develop policy and acts of e-government based on international standards to ensure the service is secure. And so when the people know the service is secure, their trust will be recent or will be high. The government also should implement e-government service in transparency manner. On the other hand, open government data should be developed for everyone to access. That is the transparency manner. Government should also encourage participation of public sector in e-government policy making process and use invest first and sector approach like Korea to develop e-government service, because Cambodia is, I can say, it's the poor country. So we use this strategy or this approach to develop e-government service. That is all about my research and its findings. So how do I apply this concept in my work? And most people already know that e-government service is really capable to solve the problem that governments are facing. Currently, there has been an emerged issue in my department, which is poor internal management of their operations, including finance management and monitoring of enterprise data and data keeping. So I can see that online institutional management system is expected to effectively solve this problem and keeps data online that is available to all involving governments of the department anywhere, anytime. Even in meeting, they can access to the document. So with this online system, all operation of my department, but except public service delivery, will be transformed into online institutional management system, and it is piloting e-government projects. Well, that is all how I applied e-government concept that I learned from Korea to my work. In this honorable occasion, I would like to profoundly thank my parent, KOICA, Mr. Hee Jun Ro, Director of KOICA Cambodia, Professor Moon at Yonsei University, for allowing me to participate in KOICA Scholarship Program, and my advisor, Samuel Lee, as well. I would also like to thank my senior minister of Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology, and Innovation, and the Director of Kampong Chhnang Provincial Department for allowing me to participate in KOICA Scholarship Program. Without you all, this successful day would not have been possible to me. Thank you for your attention to what I shared today, and wish you all good luck.